She was the CEO. She was the assistant. And the only thing more dangerous than their secret affair: getting caught. Behind closed doors, their love was electric. But in the boardroom, they were strangers. How far would they go to keep their forbidden passion, and each other? If you're looking for more stories that celebrate lesbian love and experiences, consider subscribing to my channel. Chapter 1: A Glimmer in the Boardroom. Eleanor Vance moved through the polished halls of Vance Industries like a force of nature, a whirlwind of sharp intellect and undeniable power. Her tailored suits were always impeccable, her dark hair pulled back in a severe, elegant bun, and her gaze, when it landed on you, felt like a laser. As the CEO of a sprawling tech empire, Eleanor commanded respect, and she received it in spades. Her life, from the outside, was a meticulously crafted masterpiece. A thriving business, a sprawling estate in the Hamptons, and a marriage to Richard Vance, a man whose own considerable influence complemented hers perfectly. Yet, beneath the veneer of perfection, a quiet solitude hummed, a subtle dissonance in the symphony of her success. Clara Hayes, on the other hand, was a study in quiet efficiency. As Richard Vance's personal assistant, she was a constant, calming presence in the often chaotic world of Vance Industries. Her attire was always professional, her movements precise, and her ability to anticipate needs almost uncanny. Clara navigated the complex corporate landscape with a grace that belied her relatively junior position, a testament to her sharp mind and unwavering dedication. She was bisexual, a truth she held with quiet confidence, though it rarely intersected with her professional life. She had learned to compartmentalize, to keep her inner world separate from the demands of her career. Their interactions, initially, were purely transactional. Clara would deliver documents to Eleanor's office, schedule meetings that involved both Eleanor and Richard, or relay messages between the power couple. Eleanor, accustomed to a certain level of deference, barely registered Clara beyond her professional competence. Clara, however, found herself subtly captivated by Eleanor. There was an aura about the CEO, a blend of formidable strength and an almost imperceptible vulnerability that Clara, with her keen observational skills, couldn't help but notice. She saw the fleeting moments of weariness in Eleanor's eyes, the slight tension in her shoulders that even the most expensive fabrics couldn't conceal. It was a silent acknowledgement of the immense weight Eleanor carried, a weight Clara instinctively understood. One Tuesday afternoon, a particularly complex merger negotiation kept everyone late. Richard had left hours ago, citing an early flight the next morning. Eleanor, however, remained, meticulously reviewing contracts, her brow furrowed in concentration. Clara, having finished her own tasks, found herself lingering, ostensibly to tidy up Richard's office, but in truth, drawn by the quiet hum of Eleanor's presence. The only sounds were the soft click of Eleanor's pen and the distant hum of the city. Clara, gathering some stray papers from Richard's desk, glanced towards Eleanor's open office door. Eleanor looked up, her gaze, usually so direct and commanding, softened slightly as it met Clara's. "Still here, Clara?" Eleanor's voice was smooth, a hint of surprise in her tone. "Just finishing up, Ms. Vance," Clara replied, her voice calm, professional. "Is there anything else you need before I leave?" Eleanor hesitated, her eyes scanning Clara's face, a flicker of something unreadable passing through them. "No, Clara. You've done more than enough. Go home." But Clara didn't move. Instead, she found herself walking towards Eleanor's office, a quiet impulse guiding her. "Are you sure, Ms. Vance? You look tired." Eleanor's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "It's been a long day." She gestured to the overflowing documents on her desk. "A long week, in fact." Clara nodded, understanding. "The merger is significant." "Indeed." Eleanor leaned back in her chair, a rare moment of relaxation. "It will redefine the landscape of digital security." "I have no doubt you'll succeed," Clara said, her voice genuine. "You always do." Eleanor's gaze lingered on Clara, a new curiosity in her eyes. "You have a remarkable way of seeing things, Clara. Most people just see the surface." Clara felt a warmth spread through her, a subtle acknowledgement that felt more profound than any formal praise. "I try to be observant." "And you are," Eleanor murmured, her eyes still on Clara's. The air in the room seemed to thicken, charged with an unspoken current. It was the first time they had truly seen each other, not as CEO and assistant, but as two individuals alone in the quiet expanse of the corporate tower. A tiny seed of connection, barely perceptible, had been planted. Chapter 2. Unspoken language. That initial, quiet exchange in the deserted office became a subtle turning point. In the weeks that followed, the professional interactions between Eleanor and Clara began to shift, ever so subtly. Richard, often engrossed in his own ventures, remained oblivious, his presence a constant, if unwitting, shield for the burgeoning connection between the two women. Clara found herself anticipating Eleanor's presence, a faint flutter in her stomach whenever she saw the CEO's name on her schedule. She started paying closer attention to Eleanor's habits, the way she preferred her coffee, black, 2 sugars, delivered precisely at 8:15 a.m., the subtle shift in her posture when a deal was going well, the almost imperceptible sigh she'd release after a particularly grueling meeting. These were small details, but to Clara, they painted a more nuanced portrait of the formidable woman. Eleanor, too, found her thoughts drifting to Clara more often than she cared to admit. She noticed the way Clara's eyes, a warm hazel, would crinkle at the corners when she genuinely smiled, a rare sight in the high-pressure environment of Vance Industries. She observed Clara's quiet competence, the way she handled even the most demanding requests with an unflappable calm. There was an understated elegance to Clara, a quiet strength that Eleanor found herself increasingly drawn to. Their conversations, once strictly business, began to meander into more personal territory. It started innocently enough, a shared observation about a challenging client, a brief discussion about a new art exhibit in the city, a comment on the unseasonably warm weather. These small talk moments, however, were laced with an undercurrent of unspoken curiosity, a desire to know more. One evening, a charity gala required Eleanor's attendance, and Richard, predictably, was out of town. Clara, as Richard's assistant, was tasked with ensuring Eleanor had all the necessary information and transportation. As Eleanor prepared to leave, a minor crisis arose with the event's seating arrangement. Clara, with her usual efficiency, quickly resolved the issue, her fingers flying across her tablet. Eleanor watched her, a small smile playing on her lips. "You're remarkably adept at crisis management, Clara," Eleanor remarked, her voice soft. Clara looked up, a faint blush rising on her cheeks. "Just doing my job, Ms. Vance." "It's more than that," Eleanor countered, stepping closer. Her hand, adorned with a delicate diamond bracelet, reached out, her fingers brushing Clara's arm as she adjusted a stray thread on Clara's blazer. The touch was fleeting, accidental, yet it sent a jolt through Clara, a spark that ignited a warmth deep within her. Eleanor's eyes, dark and intense, met hers, and for a moment, the world outside their small bubble ceased to exist. The air crackled with an unspoken tension, a silent acknowledgement of the magnetic pull between them. "Thank you," Clara managed, her voice a little breathy. Eleanor's smile widened, a genuine, unguarded expression that Clara had rarely seen. "You're welcome, Clara. Now, I suppose I should brave the paparazzi." As Eleanor swept out, leaving a faint scent of jasmine and ambition in her wake, Clara found herself pressing a hand to her arm where Eleanor had touched her. The sensation lingered, a phantom warmth that promised something more. Another instance, a few weeks later, found them working late on a presentation for a crucial board meeting. Richard had long since departed, leaving them in the quiet hum of the office. Eleanor, usually so composed, was visibly stressed, running a hand through her hair repeatedly. Clara, sensing her distress, quietly brought her a cup of herbal tea. "Thank you, Clara," Eleanor said, taking a grateful sip. "You always know what I need." "It's my job," Clara replied, but her eyes held a deeper meaning. Eleanor set the tea down, her gaze fixed on Clara. "It's more than that, isn't it?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You see me, Clara. Not just the CEO, not just Richard's wife. You see me." Clara's heart pounded in her chest. This was it, the precipice. She could retreat, maintain the professional distance, or she could lean in. She leaned in. "I do, Eleanor," Clara confessed, her voice soft but firm. "I see you." Eleanor's hand reached across the desk, her fingers gently tracing Chapter 4: The Secret Garden. The kiss in Eleanor's office was the ignition, a spark that set ablaze a fire long dormant within both women. What began as stolen glances and subtle touches quickly escalated into a clandestine affair, a secret garden of passion and intimacy cultivated in the shadows of Eleanor's public life. Their days were a delicate dance of professional decorum, their nights a symphony of whispered confessions and fervent exploration. Their rendezvous were carefully orchestrated. Late nights at the office became their sanctuary, the deserted floors and hushed corridors bearing witness to their deepening connection. Sometimes, it was Eleanor's sprawling Hamptons estate, when Richard was conveniently away on one of his frequent business trips. These were the moments they truly breathed, shedding the masks they wore for the world. In the opulent rooms, under the cloak of night, they found a freedom they had never known. Clara discovered a side of Eleanor that few, if any, had ever seen. The formidable CEO melted away, replaced by a woman of profound tenderness, fierce loyalty, and an insatiable hunger for genuine connection. Eleanor, in turn, found in Clara a mirror to her own suppressed desires, a safe harbor where she could finally be her authentic self. Clara's empathy and quiet strength were a balm to Eleanor's often lonely existence, and Eleanor's intensity and passion ignited a fire within Clara she hadn't known she possessed. Their shared bisexuality became a canvas for mutual discovery. They explored each other with a curiosity and reverence that transcended mere physical attraction. Every touch was a revelation, every kiss a journey deeper into uncharted territory. Eleanor, who had always viewed intimacy as a duty or performance, found herself unburdening years of emotional repression in Clara's arms. Clara, who had always been cautious in love, found herself surrendering to a passion that was both exhilarating and profoundly fulfilling. One evening, at the Hamptons estate, after a particularly intense day of navigating corporate politics, Eleanor led Clara to a hidden alcove in her vast library. Moonlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Eleanor turned to Clara, her eyes dark with a mixture of desire and vulnerability. "Clara," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "you make me feel alive. In a way I haven't felt in years." Clara reached out, her fingers tracing the elegant line of Eleanor's jaw. "You do the same for me, Eleanor. You've opened my eyes to a world I didn't know existed." Eleanor's hands found Clara's waist, pulling her closer until their bodies were flush against each other. The scent of Eleanor's skin, a blend of expensive perfume and something uniquely hers, filled Clara's senses. Eleanor's lips found Clara's neck, trailing a path of fire that sent shivers down Clara's spine. Clara arched into the touch, her breath catching in her throat. The thrill of their forbidden love, the danger of discovery, only heightened the intensity of their passion. They spent hours in that secret garden, their bodies and souls entwined, exploring the depths of their desire. The world outside, with its expectations and judgments, faded into a distant hum. There was only the soft murmur of their breaths, the rhythmic beat of their hearts, and the exquisite sensation of two souls finally finding their true home in each other. Each stolen moment was a testament to their growing love, a defiant whisper against the roar of convention. They were building a world of their own, brick by passionate brick, a world where their love was not a secret to be hidden, but a truth to be celebrated. The hot elements were not just physical, but the burning intensity of their emotional connection, the raw vulnerability they shared, and the exhilarating freedom they found in each other's arms. It was a passion born of longing, nurtured in secrecy, and destined to break free. Chapter 5: The Cracks in the Facade. The intoxicating bubble of their secret world, however, was not impenetrable. Richard Vance, though often absorbed in his own affairs, was not entirely oblivious. A man of routine and expectation, he began to notice subtle shifts in Eleanor's behavior. Her late nights at the office, once a rare occurrence, became more frequent. Her usual detached politeness towards Clara had morphed into something warmer, a quiet camaraderie that pricked at his subconscious. He dismissed it at first, attributing it to the intensity of the merger, the stress of their demanding lives. But then, the small, seemingly insignificant details began to accumulate. A faint, unfamiliar scent on Eleanor's clothes, not her usual expensive perfume, but something softer, subtly floral, reminiscent of Clara's signature fragrance. A new lightness in Eleanor's step, a spark in her eyes that hadn't been there in years, a spark that Richard, in his self-absorption, had failed to ignite. He also noticed Clara's increased presence in their Hamptons home, ostensibly for work, but often lingering after hours, her eyes meeting Eleanor's with an intensity that spoke volumes. One crisp autumn evening, Richard returned home unexpectedly early from a business trip. He found the house quiet, save for the soft murmur of voices from Eleanor's study. He approached, his curiosity piqued, and paused at the partially open door. Inside, Eleanor and Clara were seated close together on the plush rug, a half-empty bottle of wine between them, their heads bent in intimate conversation. Eleanor's hand was resting on Clara's knee, her thumb gently stroking the fabric of Clara's trousers. The sight, so casual, so tender, struck Richard with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't the act itself, but the undeniable intimacy, the emotional connection radiating between them, that confirmed his burgeoning suspicions. Eleanor. Richard's voice, sharp and laced with a cold fury, shattered the quiet intimacy of the room. Eleanor and Clara sprang apart, their faces paling. The easy warmth that had filled the study evaporated, replaced by a chilling silence. Eleanor rose slowly, her expression a mixture of shock and defiance. "Richard, you're home early." Her voice was steady, but her eyes, when they met Clara's, held a silent apology, a desperate plea for understanding. Richard's gaze, however, was fixed on Clara, a venomous glint in his eyes. "So, this is what my assistant does in my absence. Entertains my wife." His words were laced with sarcasm, dripping with contempt. Clara, though trembling, met his gaze with a quiet dignity. "Mr. Vance, we were simply discussing." "Don't insult my intelligence, Clara," Richard interrupted, his voice rising. "I'm not blind. I've seen the way you look at my wife. The way she looks at you." He turned his furious gaze to Eleanor. "Is this true, Eleanor? Is this what you've been doing behind my back? With my assistant?" Eleanor's jaw tightened. The moment of truth had arrived. The carefully constructed facade of her life was crumbling around her. She looked from Richard's enraged face to Clara's pale, anxious one. The choice, stark and agonizing, lay before her: the comfortable, conventional life she had built, or the terrifying, exhilarating promise of a future with Clara. "Yes, Richard," Eleanor said, her voice clear and unwavering, though a tremor ran through her. "It's true." Richard recoiled as if struck. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the frantic pounding of Clara's heart. The air was thick with betrayal, anger, and the undeniable, raw truth of a love that had dared to bloom in the most unlikely of places. The confrontation was brutal, a torrent of accusations and recriminations that tore through the veneer of their perfect lives. Eleanor stood firm, defending Clara, defending their love, even as the world she had known threatened to collapse around her. The emotional fallout was immense, a painful unraveling that would force Eleanor to confront not only her marriage but also the very foundations of her identity. The public scandal, the whispers, the judgment, all loomed large, but in Clara's eyes, Eleanor saw a reflection of her own courage, a silent promise that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Chapter 6: The Unfurling. The aftermath of Richard's discovery was a maelstrom. The Hamptons estate, once a symbol of Eleanor's carefully curated life, became a battleground of accusations, recriminations, and the painful dismantling of a marriage built on convenience and societal expectation rather than genuine connection. Richard, wounded pride overriding any semblance of civility, threatened to expose Eleanor, to ruin her reputation and her company. But Eleanor, fueled by a newfound resolve and the unwavering presence of Clara, met his threats with a steely calm he hadn't seen in years. "Do what you must, Richard," Eleanor had stated, her voice devoid of emotion. "But know this, I will not be blackmailed. And I will not apologize for finding happiness." Clara, initially overwhelmed by the public nature of the fallout, found strength in Eleanor's unwavering commitment. She stood by Eleanor's side, a quiet pillar of support amidst the storm. The whispers started, of course. The tabloids feasted on the scandal of the tech mogul and her husband's assistant. Board members expressed their concerns. But for Eleanor, the external noise paled in comparison to the internal liberation she felt. She was finally shedding the skin of a life that had never truly fit, embracing a truth she had long suppressed. Eleanor initiated divorce proceedings, a process that was as messy and public as Richard had promised. Lawyers battled, assets were divided, and the media circus continued its relentless pursuit. Yet, through it all, Eleanor and Clara found solace and strength in each other. Their love, forged in secrecy, now blossomed in the harsh light of public scrutiny, proving its resilience. They moved into a smaller, more intimate home in the city, a space that felt truly theirs, unburdened by the ghosts of Eleanor's past marriage. Clara, with Eleanor's encouragement, pursued her own ambitions, leveraging her sharp intellect and organizational skills to launch a successful consulting firm. Eleanor, though facing initial backlash from some conservative investors, found that her company, far from crumbling, thrived under her renewed passion and authenticity. The scandal, ironically, had stripped away the superficial, leaving behind a stronger, more focused leader. Their relationship, once a forbidden secret, slowly began to normalize. They navigated the curious glances, the occasional whispers, and the sometimes awkward questions with grace and quiet confidence. They attended events together, their hands clasped, a silent testament to their enduring love. They built a new circle of friends, people who celebrated their happiness and saw beyond the headlines. Clara helped Eleanor rediscover simple joys, quiet evenings at home, walks in the park, cooking together. Eleanor, in turn, introduced Clara to a world of art, culture, and intellectual pursuits, expanding Clara's horizons in ways she hadn't imagined. The journey was not without its challenges. There were moments of doubt, of fear, of exhaustion. But each obstacle they overcame only deepened their bond, solidifying their commitment to each other. They learned to lean on each other, to find strength in their shared vulnerability. The hot elements of their relationship evolved from the thrill of the forbidden to the profound intimacy of shared lives, the comfort of knowing they were truly seen and loved for who they were. It was a love that had been tested by fire and emerged stronger, brighter, and more beautiful than ever before. One crisp autumn morning, a year after the divorce was finalized, Eleanor woke to the scent of coffee and the soft sounds of Clara moving about their kitchen. She watched Clara, her heart swelling with a quiet joy. This was it. This was home. This was happiness. The thought, once a distant dream, was now a tangible reality. The time had come to make it official. Chapter 7. The Vows of a New Dawn. The decision to marry was not a sudden one, but a natural evolution of their shared life, a quiet understanding that had settled between them like the comfortable silence of a long-married couple. It was a promise whispered in the quiet hours of the night, solidified over shared meals, and finally, articulated on a rainy Sunday morning over steaming mugs of coffee. "I want to marry you, Clara," Eleanor had said, her voice soft but resolute, her eyes, usually so sharp, now filled with a tender vulnerability. "I want to spend every single one of my remaining days with you. Officially." Clara's heart had swelled, tears pricking at her eyes. "I want that too, Eleanor. More than anything." Their wedding was not a grand, public spectacle, but an intimate affair, a celebration of their unique journey. They chose a secluded, sun-drenched garden on a cliff overlooking the ocean, a place that felt as boundless and open as their love. Only their closest friends and family were present, those who had stood by them through the storm, who had celebrated their courage and their love. Eleanor wore a custom-tailored cream suit, its clean lines reflecting her strength and elegance. Clara, radiant and ethereal, chose a flowing ivory gown that seemed to capture the light, a delicate lace overlay hinting at her quiet grace. As they stood before the officiant, the ocean breeze carrying the scent of salt and blooming flowers, their hands clasped, their eyes locked, the world outside faded away. There was only them, and the profound, undeniable truth of their love. Their vows were not traditional, but deeply personal, reflecting the winding path they had walked to reach this moment. Eleanor spoke of Clara's unwavering strength, her quiet wisdom, and the way she had taught Eleanor to truly see herself. "You cracked open my carefully constructed world, Clara," Eleanor murmured, her voice thick with emotion, "and showed me the beauty of living authentically. You are my anchor, my compass, and my greatest adventure." Clara, her voice trembling slightly, spoke of Eleanor's fierce love, her brilliant mind, and the way she had dared Clara to dream bigger, to live more fully. You are the fire that ignites my soul, Eleanor, Clara confessed, tears streaming freely down her face. You are my safe haven, my wild freedom, and the truest love I have ever known. The kiss that sealed their vows was not just a kiss, but a culmination, a release, a promise. It was a kiss that tasted of triumph and tenderness, of battles won and a future embraced. It was a kiss that spoke of years of unspoken longing, of forbidden passion, and of a love that had defied all odds to find its rightful place in the sun. The hot elements of their union were no longer clandestine, but openly celebrated. The deep, sensual connection that had always existed between them, now sanctified by their commitment, the raw, unbridled joy of finally being able to express their love without fear or reservation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Eleanor and Clara danced under a canopy of twinkling lights, surrounded by the love and laughter of those who cherished them. Their marriage was not just a legal union, but a profound statement, a testament to the power of love to transcend societal norms, to break down barriers, and to create a new dawn. They had found their forever in each other, two bisexual women, once bound by circumstance, now united by an unbreakable bond, their story a vibrant tapestry woven with threads of passion, courage, and an enduring, undeniable love. Their journey had been long, but standing there, hand in hand, looking out at the endless ocean, they knew it was only the beginning of their beautiful, shared life.